According to BradyUnited.org, 93 Americans a day die due to gun violence. That's a pretty scary statistic, isn't it? Well, the truth is that it's actually very misleading and deceptive. In fact, a lot of facts and statistics surrounding gun violence and gun control are not only misleading and deceptive, but are also sometimes flat out false. That's why I will be refuting several points and explaining why gun control is not the solution to gun violence. Because a gun is just a tool, and a tool is not to blame for the crimes committed with the use of said tool. The true culprit of the issue is actually a lot more nuanced and complex than can be blamed on single things like widespread gun ownership and mental illness. And most importantly, that gun violence is not as prevalent as one may believe. First of all, a lot of people believe that guns are just inherently dangerous and should be kept out of as many people's hands as possible. But the truth is that it's just a tool. Like a hammer, it's useless without someone to use it to hammer in nails, or in this case, use it for nefarious purposes. But the gun isn't to blame for that crime. If a car accident happens, we do not blame the car for someone dying. We blame the driver. We blame the driver who was under the influence or wasn't driving properly and got someone killed. And deaths by car accidents are no joke either. According to Bloomberg.com, last year, traffic fatalities exceeded over 40,000. Granted, a car accident isn't exactly the same as someone killing someone with a gun, but the point still stands. If someone wants to kill someone, they're going to use a different tool, as has been seen with London. Over the past 5 years, their knife crime rate has exploded. It's gone up over 80%. And last year, their murder rate exceeded even New York City's, which is unprecedented for London. And that's just a harsh truth of the situation. People are going to use other tools if they can't get the thing that they want. If they truly want to do something bad, then they will use something other than a gun. If it's not a knife or a gun, maybe they'll use something else, something worse. That's not something I'm celebrating, but it is the truth. But that's not the end of the issue. We can't just talk about guns. We also have to talk about mental illness. Second of all, the issue of gun violence and gun control is extremely complicated and very nuanced. That doesn't stop people from trying to boil it down to one single source, though. However, mental illness isn't just the cause of this. I mean, some might think if it's not widespread gun availability, it must be mental illness, right? A lot of people think that due to the mental state of many people who commit mass shootings, that mental illness is the cause of all these gun crimes. But one major factor that often goes overlooked is the media coverage that these sick individuals often receive. According to tandefonline.com, in fact, during their attack months, some of these individuals can receive more highly valued coverage than even famous American celebrities. And by giving these people more coverage than others, we're actually helping inspire like-minded individuals. If you go on the internet, you can see that there are those who have formed almost cult-like obsessions with people like the Columbine shooters and Elliot Rodgers. And speaking of Columbine, pre-Columbine, gun ownership rates were actually pretty similar, but mass shootings weren't. And that's just the truth of the matter. With the internet and with how our media operates, we're helping give these terrible people a very special place in history among the infamous. And we need to stop focusing so much on them and their agendas and the victims, or rather on the victims who are suffering from these terrible acts. But despite all of that, one of the most important things to keep in mind is that gun violence prevalence is not actually as much as you might think. Finally, gun violence itself is kind of a deceptive term, and the statistic of 93 Americans a day dying from gun violence is very misleading. It is often touted by people who use it as an example to show that America is being plagued by a very unique epidemic. However, according to Giffords Law Center, even though the United States has the highest gun ownership rate in the entire world by far, we actually only rank 28th in terms of gun violence. And out of the nearly 37,000 people a year who die due to gun violence, about 22,000 or 61% are due to suicides, and around 13,000 are due to gun homicides, or 35%, about 500 law enforcement shootings, or 1.4%, and another 487 are totally unintentional shootings, or about 1.3%. And that doesn't even factor in things like gang shootings or self-defense homicides, as homicide doesn't even mean murder. So when you break down the 93 Americans a day statistic, it's actually super misleading, because over 2/3 of it is due to suicide, and much of the rest are unintentional, out of self-defense, or due to gang violence, leaving the number of people who die per day due to actual premeditated murder with the use of a firearm daily in the world's third most populated country very, very low. I hope I've helped change your mind a bit. In conclusion, guns are just tools that are unfortunately used by very bad people, and media sensationalism may actually be contributing more than you think to creating the kind of individuals who commit mass shootings. And gun violence is nowhere near as widespread as you may believe. I urge all of you to do your research and stop and think the next time you hear or see a news report about mass shootings or mass shooting statistics. Think critically about these kinds of issues. Always. Thank you.